Hi, this is Micornus, the leader and the founder of Church Governance Solutions. I want to deal with a topic that speaks about factors that cause leadership to scatter churches. Factors that cause leadership to scatter churches. And I want to just outline this topic and start with part one today. I hope that will be helpful for you as a pastor, as a leader, and so on, to avoid these things or these factors that cause churches to be scattered. And these are leadership-related factors, and therefore they are easy to deal with. So, but we need to address them so that we can know how to deal with them. So, therefore, I want to start off with part one today, and I hope that will help you. God uses people to support pastors, and I'm sure you know that for a church to grow, we need people to be there, and God uses people actually to assist the pastor to grow the church. But on the very same note, I want to emphasize as well that the devil also uses people to scatter churches. As much as we look at it and say God uses people to grow churches, but also the devil uses people to scatter the churches. And this is a very important point that we need to look at and make sure that therefore we look at those factors that scatter churches, that makes leaders to scatter churches, and avoid those. And when we install associate pastors, for instance, associate leaders that are unsaved, that are ungodly, and those that might be double-faced as well, or double dealings, you have in those people, those that are disgruntled, and sometimes those that are double-tongued, and in the churches as leaders. And this is where you're going to see trouble, because most of the time, this type of leaders, they will surely help to bring ruin to the church. They'll always scatter the church because of how they are from the beginning. Over the years in ministry, I've come to realize this truth in a very personal and hard way. When church pastors surrender leadership to immature people, when they surrender their leadership to people with secret agendas, people that are driven by secret agenda, and put people in position of authority simply because they are materially wealthy, or they are professionally known, or they are people that are having status in the community sometimes, and people that are connected politically. Sometimes pastors would put people there in leadership because of that. Then you are asking for trouble if you do that as a pastor. And I've always taught in the previous lessons about this, that pastors should be careful on the people that they put on the podium, the people that they put in leadership, because it depends on the people that you put on leadership, whether the church survives or it gets scattered. And this is very important that we look at that. So some of the factors that we're going to deal with today, you'll realize that they're more related exactly to that. And I want to start with this specific factor that speaks about personal crisis as one of those factors that scatter churches. In the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 16, you'll see, exactly what we're speaking about. That it is actually issues of personal crisis sometimes that cause the church to be scattered. Church leaders that doesn't have personal and growing relationship with the Lord will surely bring ruin to the church itself. They will surely scatter the church. So therefore, it is very important that church leaders must have personal growth. They must have personal relationship with God. If we are going to speak about leaders that will actually build the church, make it grow, they must have personal relationship with God themselves, and it must be a growing relationship with God. And that's very, very important. Other than that, you're going to have people that will scatter the church. The church leaders that have church positions but are in personal spiritual crisis themselves, they will bring the church down, because there are those that are having spiritual crisis, going through spiritual downturn themselves. They are not strong. They are not actually matured in the things of God. They are not spiritually connected with God. But yet they are in positions in the church. It will actually bring the church down. And that's very, very key that we look at it and say, When people are in leadership, they should be stable-minded people. There must be people that are matured. There must be people that know the word of God, and of course, not only knowing the word, but to live according to the principles of the word of God. And people that are guided by the word of God and therefore develop character to live according to the gospel or the word of God that guides them to make them the people that are focused, that are driven actually to know how to live as examples in life. Because remember that when somebody's in a position in a church, they become role models automatically. People look up to them. They expect them to be showing the way. They expect them to be examples and role models that can be followed. And that becomes very, very important, that we don't see people knowing the word by regurgitating verses only, but by applying it in their own lives and therefore living according to the word of God and therefore setting up an example unto the people. Remember that as leaders, sometimes we become the only Bible that people can read because we are being watched very strictly, because people look up to you. They want to follow you every step of the way because they know that the leaders know what they are talking about. Therefore, their lifestyle should align with that. So therefore, it is an abomination to hear a leader say, don't follow what I do, but listen to what I say. It's an abomination. Because a leader should actually be aiming to live the life that is attractive in a way of role modeling, a lifestyle that will make people decide to follow you every step of the way. Now, if it is not so, therefore, you'll find that the church scatters because of a lack of character of a leader. So this is something that becomes an issue if leaders are appointed in positions, but yet they don't have the lifestyle. So the issue that at the personal and the private lives of leaders will surely affect their work as well, because you cannot separate personal life and the work of the ministry. Because personal life and the work of the ministry, they marry together in a way that every time things are not right in your personal life, people relate it to the life of the ministry. And that is why most of the churches got scattered, not or because of the congregation, no, because of the character and lifestyle of the leader or the leaders in the church. And therefore, because of that, when lifestyle is scandalous, and then the church members will walk away and the church will scatter based on the lifestyle of the leader himself or the leaders that are in that church. It is very important that we realize that. Now, your cases, limitations and foundations and ordinations and scenes will gravely affect the work, because you cannot avoid actually relating the lifestyle of a leader and the leadership that he holds into running the church. You cannot actually remove the ministry work away basically from the lifestyle of an individual. So that lifestyle of an individual will still have a place, will still have a situation of affecting the ministry itself. And that is why most of the churches get scattered, particularly because of the lifestyle of leaders. I want to bring this other factor, which is the fact of wrong placement. And I want to speak about wrong placement just for a moment as a factor that causes leadership to scatter churches as well. Now, what scatters churches more than anything else is wrong placement of leaders. Now, when leaders are not placed properly, when leaders are not in line with their calling, that will scatter the church, and that becomes very, very important. And that's the point that I want to speak about right now. When we use secular positions to rule over spiritual capacity, then things will go down, and they will spiral down in a way that may not be able to be rescued. And that is the reason why you cannot take a political leader to come and become a pastor in a church, because that's the wrong placement. You don't bring somebody because they are leaders in the community and bring them to come and lead the church just because of that. Because there is a difference between spiritual matters and secular matters, of course. So therefore, a secular person, whether it's a CEO of the biggest company in the community, should not be a criteria for somebody to become a leader in the church. Because if you do so, therefore, you're going to misplace that person, and that is going to contribute towards scattering the church itself. And that's something that happens a bit more frequently. That teachers in the communities, nurses in the communities, and counselors, for instance, who are political leaders, get to be ordained into churches to become leaders in the churches. And because they are wrongly placed, they are going to apply political approach in a spiritual environment. And therefore, they're going to miss the whole direction of running the church. And they are going to scatter the church because of that. When we use those secular positions to actually use them in the church, we are wrongly advised or ill-advised in a way, because we are going to actually scatter the church itself because of wrong placement. When young, inexperienced, and ignorant pastors are made to lead in old, middle-sized churches, and things will go awry as well. Sometimes you find that you're having this old community, these old systems that people are using, these old people that are there, and sometimes people that have got more knowledge and people that knows the word and the principles of God much more than the pastor himself. And then the young pastor comes there, very inexperienced of the things of God, very inexperienced of the work of the church and administration things of the church as well. Now you put somebody in there without knowledge, without experience, somebody who's totally immature to lead this particular congregation, that will scatter the church. And I'm sure you have seen it several times when you have seen these old people that have been in this church forever. Now you bring a young pastor who's going to run things differently, who's going to institute something that they are not used to. Now that change itself will scatter the church. It may be a change in the right direction. It may be a very good change and positive change. But the fact that these people have been there for a very long time and they are used to a certain system of running things, now an introduction of innovative ways of running things as a young pastor, you're basically putting them off. And most of them start walking away from this church. And they will tell you, this is not how we know this church. Then you'll hear them saying, this young pastor is destroying our church. You'll hear them saying, this young pastor is destroying our systems. And we have seen these things happening. And I must really say that will scatter the church as well. And when you find that you lack knowledge as a young pastor, please study more, please learn more, find out as well, and learn to become on par with the very same people that you lead. You cannot be in a church that you're leading and you are less knowledgeable than the very same members that you are leading. That will scatter the church as well. Surely wrong leaders do kill churches. And of course, and when the leadership of churches have no spiritual capacity to lead the church, things will surely go down as well. And that, I'm emphasizing that a leader of a church should be spiritually sound. Must be somebody who's matured and grown and knows how to lead people. You must know the Bible. You must know the content of the Bible and how to articulate it as well. Because if you don't know the content and the material that you're teaching, then therefore you're going to be exposed. And many people will walk away because they're gaining nothing out of your leadership. That is very, very important that we mention that as well. And positional leadership will never help a local church to be spiritually healthy, because sometimes we want to stick into positions. We stick into not roles per se, but positions and titles and so on. And therefore, we think that will actually put the glue into the church. Many people walk away from that because those positions are given to wrong people sometimes, and the church cannot be healthy for that regard. And when we place unspiritual, immature people in topmost positions in the church, we are surely inviting disaster as well, and we are scattering the church because of that. And I want us to take note of these factors because they are there in our churches, and most of them have destroyed and scattered our churches. But I want to warn pastors and leaders that let us not scatter churches with these factors, and let's be careful of those and make sure that the churches are not scattered. I want to end up here today. Your host, Micornus, Phokane. Thank you very much for listening to us and be part of this great topic. And I hope that you've learned quite a bit out of this. Please remember also to like our Facebook page, Micornus Phokane, our Facebook page, Church Governance Solutions. And remember also to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that will help you as well to follow up. There's a lot of materials that we posted there, and it will help you as you follow us. May the good Lord bless you and allow me to check out right here and say cheers for now.